Good evening, friends, and welcome to the official YouTube channel of VS Strategic Business Consulting. In our series, In Conversation with a Thought Leader, today our speaker and our guest is an eminent senior leadership coach. He's a CEO coach, has trained many senior leaders, CEOs, and board of directors of many organizations in being able to identify their purpose and work towards it. So today, in this session, we would be discussing with Hariprasad Menon, the CEO of GRID International India, and learning about the importance of coaching and how it helps the organization and senior leaders in being able to perform significantly much better. So let's welcome Mr. Hariprasad Menon. Welcome, Hari. Very good evening, and thanks a lot for accepting my invite to be part of this series in conversation with a thought leader. It's really, honor to have you in this series. Thank you. Thanks a ton, Hari. I would request you to point of view about the series and its relevance before we commence the actual session.
Thank you, Venkat. It's nice to connect with you after a very long time actually.
2 years, 8 months precisely. I know.
That's great, yeah. And I when you requested me for this session, and I was actually going through some of your earlier episodes, and I found it quite relevant to people, because you're talking about specifically talking about leadership. Now for a lot of people, leadership is mostly definitions of designation or authority or power. Yeah, but leadership is not any of that. It's an attitude. Leadership is a philosophy. Yeah, so you could have leadership exhibited by a 10-year-old, 12-year-old in his space. For example, in let's say a wedding is happening, and this 10-year-old is given the job of let's say serving a soft drink to all the guests. Now, his ability to do that very clearly, without hiccups, and he will do it. He or she will do it. So he'll make sure that every guest is, received and given a glass of juice. Now that's leadership. Yeah, so you have an office boy, doing his job perfectly. You have a pantry support doing his job perfectly. A visitor walks in, provides coffee. That's leadership. So when I saw this episode talking about leadership, I was quite keen to join you because I thought it just helps us to share another perspective of leadership.
Excellent. Thank you. Thanks a lot. It's because this coming from you is certainly a blessing. I would certainly say that. Okay. So, starting the series with my first question, right? Honey, you've been a coach. You have advised, coached many senior leaders, CEOs, and helped them so that they identify their purpose and also help them in how to approach and achieve that purpose, right? I'm very keen to understand what is your purpose and how did you approach in achieving that or in the process of achieving it. Could you please elaborate that, probably giving one or two instances for us to understand that?
So the first arrow is at the guest, is it? Yeah, but it's an interesting question because you speak about purpose, and that's something that I work with in all my clients. But we'll get to that later. As far as my purpose and how did I get here? I was in employment for about 15 years or so, from 85 to 2000. Everything in the IT industry. So I used to work with the marquee brands of those times. I worked with Compaq, I worked with IBM, I worked with Oracle. In those days, it used to be called iFlex, and etc. etc. All of it in business development and everything. I've led organizations, I've led startups, I've led teams, regions, etc. So sometime around 2000, this thing was not getting exciting for me. This whole employment thing, because I realized that whichever organization hired me, or I choose to move on, realized that end of the day I was doing exactly the same thing but a different business card. It's the same same client. So when I decided to move on, one of the things I did not want to do very clearly was to set up an altar business. An altar business is, a lot of people who want to quit and move on, they tend to sort of set up the same business from which they are moving. Like, for example, somebody works for HP, he wants to quit and start a HP associate relationship. Somebody works with IBM, wants to quit, and or somebody works with KPMG, wants to quit and start a consulting. Yeah, I didn't find that very relevant, because you're not doing anything at all. You might as well stay with the brand. I mean, I would rather have more doors opening for me if I tell them I'm vice president at IBM than if I tell them I'm vice president at Hariprasad and Associates. It's not going to. So I didn't find that very exciting. So I actually wanted to find out, what do I actually want to do.
Mm-hmm.
And that question was extremely uncomfortable for me, because I realized that I didn't I had not thought about it at all, other than from a perspective of a job. But I was very clear, I'm not going to give up on that question. So the more I dug deep, I realized that I need to focus on what do I want to achieve with myself, which is what is the purpose that I would like to focus, what I would like to live. Okay, my life's purpose. And that's a very while the question looks very nice and noble and very spiritual and all that, it's still a very theoretical question. If I ask somebody, what's your purpose, most of the answer is from goals perspective. So my purpose is not to simply provide for my family, or that's what we all think, provide for family and then get stability of finance and all that. So when I went a little deeper to that question, what is my purpose? I wanted to explore what was I happy doing. So what was I happy doing? And for example, every day, what's going to make me excited about doing something in a day? What was that something? The more I thought about it, I realized that all my years, that was a very interesting reflection, because when I went back almost 15 years of my what would you say, employment years, I realized that despite the fact that I was in business development and stuff like that, the most exciting part of every role was actually in helping a customer find his solution, whatever be the product or service that I'm selling. I realized that the deal itself didn't give me much excitement, or the purchase order itself didn't give me much excitement, as much as that moment where I'm helping a customer brainstorm his cloud and his dilemmas and arrive at something.
Right.
And then I realized that's what I want to be doing. That gives me tremendous happiness. So from there on, it was a question of trying to find out, okay, if that's the activity I want to do, which space should I be in? And that's how I realized I would like to be in the coaching consulting space, fundamentally helping people achieve their best. So if you ask me what is my purpose is exactly that: to help entities, whether it is an individual or an organization, achieve their potential, or follow their potential, to help them realize that they are a bestseller, and that bestseller is yet to be written, in the sense that whatever they are today, they can be exponentially much more better than wherever they are now. So that's my purpose, and that's why I stumbled upon this whole coaching journey, so to speak.
Brilliant, brilliant, brilliant. Because this is something, the way you explained it actually gives an idea about, it's not so easy to find an answer for this question, but the moment we get an answer, then all the other things, it actually falls like tributaries and it falls into place.
Absolutely.
Excellent,
Absolutely. And you have to, that's why I urge everyone, every time I coach, this is one of my first couple of sessions, is to help them find purpose. And the moment they find or discover, I would say discover the purpose, not define a purpose, because the purpose is already there. Yeah, you're just living it in a very unconscious way. But the moment you discover it, it suddenly moves from 300 feet below to suddenly 300 feet above, and suddenly it's like 10,000 watts of bulb switched on in the room. A lot of things become clear to you.
Absolutely, absolutely. In fact, this reminds me of the way I was helped to identify or realize my purpose. I was actually in discussion in one of my initial days of discussion with my mentor, whom I consider my mentor, Mr. Raja Krishnamurthy. I'm sure you know him.
Yeah.
So I was speaking to him. The first question he asked me, he heard me, and he asked me, okay, Venkat, what is your purpose? And
Mm.
this sounded very easy for me. But as you rightly mentioned, I spoke about, this is my goal, this is my vision, this is what I want to do. He asked only one question. He smiled and he said, Venkat, this is all fantastic. You're going to build, you're going to grow, you're going to make a platform for your kids. Financially, you'll grow. So what?
Yeah.
That so what was so strong that it then obviously I was able to find the answer and realize what it is which I'm working. Thanks a lot. In fact, you helped me recollect that. My next question is, in one of your social media post,
Mm.
you specifically mentioned that I work with leaders
Mm.
and help them move from being better in what they are doing to achieve significant better results. And this, you said, you do it by changing ineffective behaviors and building effective behaviors.
Yeah.
Now, I would want to understand, what do you mean by effective and ineffective behaviors, and how it impacts an individual leader's thought process? It will be great if you can actually elaborate that with probably one example.
Yeah, it's good. Most of the time, for people who don't understand, the word behavior, I'll just take a minute to explain. See, a lot of the times we think of behavior as, as elements of good manners. Saying please, thank you, sorry, and good morning, good afternoon, smiling, dress well, etc., etc. While that is definitely part of the behavior, that's only one element of behavior, because I would say that element of behavior comes in the realm of what we call as advocacy or communication. Okay, that's all. Okay, but like all skills, behavior is a skill, and it can be acquired. So very specifically, there are 7 behavior skills. Okay, so there is something like one behavior skill is initiative, the other behavior skill is inquiry. Initiative is how much of initiative you take, okay, and how much do you support someone else's initiative. A lot of the times we are willing to take initiative, but we are so egoistic about it. How much are you supporting somebody else's initiative? Similarly, inquiry. Okay, you're asking questions. Are you asking questions with an intention to clarify, with an intention to expand, the information, or are you asking a question with an intention to downgrade that fellow? Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. So the moment you ask a question with an intention to downgrade somebody, that becomes ineffective behavior, because you're not going to get the right kind of answer to that question. Okay. So for example, if I you ask me this question now, and I can simply for example, if I say, oh Venkat, you haven't read about any of these things, so I wish you had done some homework for this. Okay. Now if I tell that, it's going to hurt you immediately, and while you're live, we might laugh it off, and but it will sort of be there. Okay. Now that's an ineffective behavior on my part. Okay, because it didn't help to explore the question, it rather went to downgrading. But it's a perfectly legal, English wise correct. It does not use unparliamentary language. A lot of us use these behaviors. For example, when we tell somebody, oh my god, you're so stupid, yeah, you've been asking for help last 3 times on this, which may be true. The guy may have asked him for help 3 times, but to tell him, look man, why are you so inefficient, why are you asking for help so many times, that becomes ineffective. Because the person to whom it is addressed, even though the content is right, maybe he asked for help 3 times, and maybe there is a degree of inefficiency, but saying it like that is ineffective behavior. Okay, but rather if you would say, look man, this is the 3rd time you're asking for help, Are you comfortable with your responsibilities? Okay, is there, that helps the guy to think through, it doesn't blame him, etc., etc. Yeah. Similarly, we do a lot of these things, like, let's say I join late for a meeting. Yeah. I immediately walk in and say, I'm so sorry to be 5 minutes late. Yeah. Now, I would say, stop saying sorry. Instead, see, when you say sorry, the focus is on you. Okay. You're saying, I'm sorry because I'm late. Yeah. Now, while you're late, the other person has been waiting for the additional 5 minutes. Okay. So why don't you thank the person instead of saying, I am sorry? Why don't you say, thank you, Venkat, for waiting for these 5 minutes? I appreciate you waiting up for me. Okay. It sort of just opens up, it liberates. Yeah. So effective behaviors are, many things, learn to listen better, more effective behavior, not good listening, ineffective behavior. Okay. Interrupting somebody while talking, ineffective behavior. Allowing that person to complete conversation, effective behavior. Okay. Understanding, asking a question with or listening, just listening with an intention to understand rather than with an intention to reply or retort. Yeah, the effective behavior. So I might listen very intently, but if my intention is to retort to you or retaliate, okay, then that becomes ineffective behavior. So at every step, the effective behavior is an enabling behavior where it allows people to contribute, collaborate, etc. Ineffective behaviors prevent people from collaborating, coming together, creating consensus, etc. So obviously, ineffective behaviors, when done in a team, it will prevent people from offering ideas. Okay. For example, somebody says, boss, I don't think we should be doing this, and the boss turns around and says, who the hell asked you to think? Yeah, I'll do that. You just do what you're told to do. We have seen hundreds of bosses say this. Yeah, but it's ineffective behavior because the guy stops thinking. From that moment onwards, he stops offering any ideas to the boss. Okay, so who misses? Boss misses, team misses, because this guy could have an idea which could be a game changer, but because he has been hit on the head once, he stops doing that. So that's ineffective behavior. Effective behavior, the same boss says, that's very interesting, man. Have you tried this angle? Let's say the boss has an angle, okay, or let's assume the boss hasn't. The boss thinks it's a bad idea. But even to say, have you tried this angle? Have you explored? Do you think there are any risks here? Now, the moment he talks like that, the person starts exploring that risk. Yeah, and his ideas actually start flowering, and that's effective behavior, because what he has done is he has not put that guy down. He has created an environment where that person is willing to become collaborative, explore, etc., etc. So that's fundamentally ineffective and effective. So the more effective a leader's behavior is, the more effective the team responds to him. So there's more collaboration, more consensus, more willingness, more involvement, more commitment. Ineffective behaviors, all of this becomes less involvement, less commitment, less consensus, etc., etc.
Excellent, excellent. In fact, it's so relevant because in my tenure of my employment, I've certainly seen such things, and where I've noticed, as you rightly pointed out, there were individuals who did not get an opportunity to showcase their initiative, and they never initiated, and which had a major impact in their future careers. So
Absolutely.
they come into a mindset, they came into a mindset that we are not supposed to talk, so at least in front of my
And
manager.
yeah, Venkat, what I would like to add here is, while so many people are listening, this ineffective behavior is not just corporate limited, okay? Because we're talking about behaviors, it happens at home. How many times have we, you don't even have to shout, but let's say you're doing something and your child comes to you with something, you might just frown at the child, and the child walks away, okay? And the child will never feel like interrupting you after that, okay? So this is something that everyone should be able to understand. The concept of ineffective behavior and effective behavior. So that's the whether it's at home, at work, it makes a tremendous difference to the outcomes. Yeah,
Absolutely.
for example, you may be actually busy, but if your daughter comes and tells you that, I'd like to talk to you, but if you're able to say to whoever, let's say you're talking to me and your daughter comes or son comes and tells you, and you say, Hari, just give me a second, and you tell the son, without shooing him away, hey man, I'm in the midst of something. This is going to take me this. Can I, say hello to this uncle or say hello to the people, and can we just do this 1 hour later? Okay, and I'm sure he or she will happily fly off. But same result. You frown at the person, he or she will fly away. You do this also, he or she will fly away. But in the second episode, they fly away with a happy smile, knowing that they've been respected.
It's a tremendous point that you have actually mentioned. I really have to admit. Okay. But next question. In one of your posts,
Mm,
LinkedIn posts, specifically mentioned and asked a question:
mm,
why are many senior leaders reluctant to get coached?
mm,
Right? And you actually explained the importance and benefits of it through an analogy.
mm,
Right? Personally, I think it is prerogative for any individual to get coached in every phase of his career, and it is more important and extremely critical for a person who is actually at the leadership position. Contrary, I have a viewpoint, rather I would say it's a view which is a query which I would
mm,
like to get it clarified from you.
mm,
This question I got it because I actually posted a uh, kind of a polling asking options for people why organizations fail in the startups and on LinkedIn.
mm.
One specific individual, pretty senior guy again, he asked some fundamental question on it, which was very relevant, and that hit my mind. And I thought I should certainly speak to the man himself and learn that. So the question is, the contrarian view is, let's imagine an individual. Let's think about an individual who is already serving as a CEO for an organization for more than 5 years,
Mm,
and the organization has grown tremendously well,
mm,
increased its brand equity, extremely good growth oriented in terms of its market capitalizations, earning per share, and certainly have reached that dream where customers have started identifying it by name. It basically mean the organizational leader, that CEO, is already a leader. He's been
right,
successful, tremendously successful, and
right.
he's a proven leader now.
Mm.
Now, why would he need to be coached? And in such a case, how would a coaching help that organization which has already achieved its success? Could you please explain that? Probably taking an example for our perfect understanding.
Has anybody told you you're very naughty, Venkat?
Oh, from my childhood, everyone, yes.
Because for the last couple of times you have referred to my post, and you're taking whatever I said and throwing it back at me. So
But
let's
as an individual,
answer
I
that
need
question.
to do my research. That's where it came from.
Yeah, of course. I was just kidding. So yeah, of course. Yeah, it just allows me to expand on that thought. Yeah. So what I posted is my conviction. It allows me to expand on that thought. See, let me ask you this question. While you were working, you had an employment phase, right? Before you got onto this consulting journey.
Yes,
Let me
yes.
ask you this: while you were head of HR in that organization, wherever you are working, yeah, did you feel that your CEO needed coaching?
200% yes.
There you are. So, see, the key is, a lot of the times we think that, like I said, leadership is about a position or an authority. Yeah. And, a lot of times we think that, it's a destination. Okay. It's not a destination, it's a milestone. Okay. So let's take a typical example of an organization that is doing extremely well. Let's take some of the really large organizations, L&T, Unilever, Wipro, Adobe, whatever. Yeah, they are all, every one of them are leaders in their domain, and they have CEOs who have performed tremendously well. Yeah. Now this whole concept of VUCA, as far
Mhm.
as a business is concerned, which is volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity. Hmm? VUCA is a continuous term. Okay, the pandemic is a classic example of a VUCA environment being thrust on leadership. Okay, so it's a continuous term where okay, the pandemic is over now. There are a lot of organizations who have invested in digitization and creating change. Now that will trigger other sense of challenges. Probably having funds, having infrastructure, having space, etc. There are tons of organizations who got millions of square feet of space right now. Yeah. And with a lot of work from home now becoming a sort of a normal. and there are a lot of hybrid a lot of hybrid models coming into play. They are going to be left with millions of square feet of excess space.
Right.
Okay, so the business ecosystem is continuously evolving. Okay, so as the business ecosystem is continuously evolving, every leader, whether it is a branch manager or a CEO, is constantly facing challenges of business. Okay, it could be a constraint, it could be new opportunities, it could be new relationships, it could be that your business model itself is going out of out of circulation, and you need to think up new business. So the point is, change is the constant.
Right.
Okay, now if you don't I have this classic saying that if you don't change will change you. Yeah, so so if if you are not adaptable to that change, okay, and when, let's assume the new business opportunities, you are going to be needing leaders. Yeah, how are you going to create that leadership pipeline? How are you going to decide that I need to get into this business, I don't need to get into this business? How are you going to decide that I need to get out of this territory, I need to get out of this business? You see organizations divesting, you see organizations selling off, you see organizations acquiring. Yeah, tremendous amount. So all of that means that constantly a CEO needs to be changing, or not just a CEO, everybody in the organization, they need to constantly change. Okay, so it's like this. If you just put it very mathematically, if you're doing X now, okay, whatever that X is, as an individual or as a team or as an organization, if you want to change that into Y or Z, okay, it could be anything. I'm not saying it's turnover, but it could be you want to become a different organization, whatever. Yeah, you just want to change. Now, are you going to change by doing whatever you did till yesterday? You're not. You're going to change when you do something differently. And the moment you do something differently, you're going to face resistance and reluctance and all kinds of things. Yeah, you're going to face a lot of headwind. And to handle that, a leadership behavior needs to come into play. Okay, so Simon Sinek has written a book about this concept. He calls it the infinite game. Yeah, so the infinite game, if you look at a finite game, the example of a finite game is, let's say, a cricket match or a football match or whatever. The duration is very specific. Yeah, there's a 90-minute game or a 3-hour game or a 1-day game or whatever. The opponents are very clear. You know who you're competing with. You know the metrics of how much is winning. A 3-2 goal is a win, or a 200 versus 180 score is a win, etc. Okay, but in life, in friendship, in relationships, in business, there is no finite position here. It's an infinite game. What is the definition of an infinite game? Infinite game is, it's a continuous affair, where you can have finite milestones. Okay, I want to get this quality reward, I want to get this turnover, I want to I want to be present in a great place to work magazine, or blah blah blah. Yeah, they're all finite milestones. I want to achieve $500 million turnover. Now, the day you achieve your $500 million turnover, does that mean that you're going to shut down your business? No, you're going to think up a new thing, right? So the purpose of the finite game is winning. The purpose of the infinite game is to stay relevant. Okay, so think of it like driving on a highway. Okay, 10 years ago or 15 years ago, if you are driving on a highway at a 60-kilometer average speed, you could be relevant. Okay, because the average speed on the highway was maximum of 80 kilometers. Okay, so if you're driving at 60 kilometers, you could be relevant. Okay, today the average speed on the highway is 100 kilometers. Okay, so if you drive at 60 kilometers, you're going to have people honking behind you. Okay, now you have only two choices: either you pick up speed or you allow them to overtake you. Okay, now you take it another 5 years from now, the average speed will become 120 kilometers or 150 kilometers per hour. Yeah, at that time also, if you're driving at 60, you will not have a lane to play. You will become irrelevant.
I had actually invited Parthasarathi,
Yeah.
if your client. So he have come in. So I want to hear from him.
Yeah.
And learn from him, because he's one of the person who've been coached by you, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So let me welcome him. He's actually waiting online.
Okay. How did you get hold of Partha? Nice to have him on board here.
Welcome, Partha, and very good evening.
Hey, Partha.
And first of all, let me welcome you to this official YouTube channel of VS Strategic Business Consulting. In this series, I've been very fortunate that I was able to get the acceptance from Hariprasad Menon and to talk to us and guide us with respect to the importance of coaching and organization culture and how it impacts the overall leadership. Now, I would like to, ask you. You have witnessed the growth of ample technologies from a single digit to a multi-million digits, right? And what is your perspective about the importance of senior leaders being coached, and how did it help you, and how did it help the overall organization in its growth?
So first of all, thank you for having me, and I'm happy to be here. Uh, uh, I think Hari has been one of my, I call Hari a Guruji. So so that's how I look at him. So let me take you back, for example, 10 years back. Let's say about 10 years back, Ample was a very small organization, and so we had embarked upon a culture change journey in our endeavor to grow to the next level, because we were a small company. We believe that the right culture will help the shift the mindset of our people in this journey of aspirational growth. And as
Mhm,
part of that journey, the entire leadership team, which I was part of, and two layers below that, had gone through the GRID training. So GRID
mhm,
is a great framework for behavioral management, and we were clear from the beginning that in order to build a great culture or the right culture, the leaders needed to change the behavior on the ground to drive day-to-day business activities. For example, things like goal setting, or things like hiring, things like how do you do reviews, how do you manage escalations, etc., etc. And while grid helped us understand the power of the behavior, the coaching intervention, which was under Hari guidance, helped leaders anchor their behavior changes on a day-to-day basis. My coaching journey started around that same time, almost 10 years back, and I continue to even today, be on that journey, because very early on I realized the power of grit as well as the power of coaching. So let me tell you how this impacted the journey of Ample at a organization level, as well as my own journey. Okay. As an organization, once I think this was, I think almost, uh, if I'm not wrong, almost one third of the organization, about 30% of the organization went through this journey. It was about 6 to 9 months kind of program, which started with grid and training, and then the coaching journey. Uh, I think the result we saw after that was amazing. Uh, People started focusing on solutions to our problems. Politics, office politics, was it just disappeared. Okay, people brought a lot of candor to workplace. They started enjoying their work. They loved the culture, and the transformation we saw over the next, let's say 4 to 6 quarter after this intervention was amazing.
mhm,
uh, you fast forward to 10 years now. Today, Ample has grown over the last 10 years in terms of, just to give you a sense, in terms of revenue, we have grown 20x. In terms of business presence across locations in the country, we have grown 25x. In terms of manpower, we have grown 15x. And all this was built on the foundation of grit and coaching.
mhm.
So
Excellent.
this is as an organization. Now about me myself, how did it impact me personally? So for me also the experience has been amazing. Hari as a guru has been instrumental in my growth and in what I am today. I'm a much better version of myself today, 10 years down the line. So my coaching journey helped me, being a far more rounded leader, being a more effective leader. It contributes significantly in my ability to, take on more by growing more leaders under me, manage a large scale, as well as have a significant impact as a professional in the growth of the organization. When I started this journey 10 years back, I was into product management. I was head of products, and I had a small team under me. Today, if you look at the role I manage, I head the retail business for Ample. I manage a business of close to 600 crores across marquee. We have 4 marquee brands, which adds up to our retail portfolio, which is Apple, A6, Under Armour, and Bose. These are all international and well-known brands. We are present in 60 locations across 18 plus cities and a team size of 350 people. That's the scale I manage today. Now, I think all that, the foundation of that journey for me to be able to do that was built under Hari through his coaching interventions and within the framework of GRID. And I'm very thankful to him for that. And not only that, I think as a person also, I have grown. I think the coaching has helped me realize my true potential, as well as it has helped me. I believe strongly it has helped me become a better human being. So I think to me it's wonderful. It's remarkable, the journey.
I can really, I don't know how to thank you. The reason is the way you actually explained it, right? I was able to visualize the entire thing probably like, watching a movie now or reading a wonderful, pointer. Thank you. Thanks a lot, Prasad, because we were actually discussing on one specific question where I did ask Hari as stating that if a leader has already proved himself and the organization has grown, right, and the CEO has managed in such a way that the organization has increased its market presence, its brand equity, as well as its earnings per share, he has been successful. If already a person is successful, why would he need a coach?
You can ask him. You can ask Partha the same question and ask him, does he feel coaching would be useful to him now? He's already.
he said you to be a guru. So affirmatively, the way he explained, he has like that we say, right? Gurubhyo Namaha. So he is completely, surrendered that way. So that's one of the reasons probably, it exemplifies the importance of coaching. Anyhow, Partha, what would your answer be for that?
See, I think it's for me. I think, for example, as I said, we were a very large, small organization. I have been part of Ample for 20 years now, and our aspiration is world class. Okay? When you have that kind of aspiration, your learning, your journey never ends, right? So there is, when you want to be the best in the world, unless until you're open to learning, unless until you are willing to, because things are changing around you rapidly, correct? And a journey like this and an intervention like this helps you stay focused, helps you stay grounded. Otherwise, you can't do that journey because it's all starts there.
I would personally like to thank you, Prasad, for actually, coming on this series and giving your perspective, because it makes a lot of relevance and it's extremely important for a senior leader like you to come and explain and brief, which you did extremely well, explaining the importance of being coached at the senior leadership level and how it actually impacts the overall organization. It's just not about the current growth, as it's a part of the journey, how it is so relevant being coached and be, moving ahead. Thank you. Thanks a lot, Prasad, for joining us on this series, because it's very important. Your timing is very important. In a short notice, you agreed and you obliged our request. Thank you. Thanks a lot.
Welcome. Thank you.
Thanks.
Bye.
Hari, I think that was an excellent point because it was so relevant, Prasad joining at this correct juncture while you were answering this question and talking about giving through that example what I asked, how you were explaining. I think hearing it from a senior leader like him, how it impacted his journey, his organizational team members' journey, the maturity of the culture within the organization, how it impacted. I think it made a lot of relevance. Now, getting back to my next question. Actually, wanted to ask a question, but I'm skipping that because I found the answer for that, and I'm sure it's going to be much more relevant. So I'm going to go to the next question. Now, in the current last about 2 decades, if we typically look at, there's been a strong buzzword, two buzzwords, mentoring and coaching. Are they synonymous or are they different? If so, how they are different? Request you to elaborate, probably giving an example.
See what? See, there are a lot of such words which seem closely associated, but they have their own flavor. Let me just stick to this mentoring, coaching, but because those keep coming up very often. See what happens when mentoring. See if it is a hardcore mentoring, if it is just focused on mentoring, you are actually a particular leader focuses on helping someone else understand the nuances of business. Okay, how to be let's say an exiting CEO is preparing the succession CEO and mentors him into the CEO role. Okay, so typically he would be talking in terms of these are your responsibilities, these are the areas which are dangerous for you, these are the challenges for you, these are the things that I did, you could do this, but this is what I found successful. So in mentoring, the mentor uses himself as a primary example, okay, and tries to transfer his techniques and tips and methods to that other person. So there is a lot of transfer of knowledge, there is a lot of suggestions, advices, sharing of information. There is a tremendousness with respect to the flow of information going from the mentor to the mentee, or the other person. Okay, so the mentor transfers his knowledge, tips, techniques, methods, tricks, everything, and tries to get the other person up to speed. Okay, so that's mostly mentoring. Okay, but so in the concept of mentoring, it is a given that the mentor needs to be a domain expert or an expert in the area in which the other person wants to be mentored. Okay, uh, uh, but coaching is not that. Coaching is actually a very enabling thing. A lot of people think coaching is suggestions and advices. They almost think it is an alternate of counseling. Okay, it's none of this. It's neither advising, strategizing, mentoring, none of this. Coaching is fundamentally a platform where the coaching participant, okay, has an aspiration. Okay, and that aspiration needs to be fulfilled. Okay, the potential needs to be unleashed, and the coach helps the participant to discover, unleash, attain that potential. Okay, so the coach is somebody who triggers those questions and who helps that person to navigate. Okay, but the navigating has to be done by the coachee, if I can use a word like that. Okay, so think of it like a navigator in a car. Okay, let's say a driving assistant or a navigator in a car. The steering wheel is still with the driver. The coach is somebody who sits there and says, look, if you take this road, you'll get here. If you take this road, you'll get here. So the questions, the cobwebs, the dilemmas, the challenges. Like for example, somebody could come and tell me, look, Hari, I had a classic example of this kind of coaching where I was coaching somebody in a very senior person in a very very large organization, a multi-billion-dollar organization, and he was head of ENS, EHS, employee health safety. He was heading that function. He was nominated for coaching. At some time, I sensed that there is a sense of disconnect in his questions, and it took more than 3 sessions for him to slowly open up. When he opened up, he said, I want to quit. Okay, so that was a shock for me, because he was nominated by the organization. The organization is paying me to coach this guy, and so my dilemma at that time was a little bit moral also. Should I tell the organization that because they are paying? And finally, I realized that my coaching client is actually this person sitting in front of me. Okay, the organization is the sponsor of that coaching, so the organization pays me. But my ethics is to make sure that this person sitting in front of me gets his goal or gets his dilemmas resolved. Right. So when I kept, going deeper and deeper and deeper, he had his reasons, etc., etc., etc. And, the coaching assignment finished in about 10 or 11 months. And, he was extremely thankful for clarifying all those cobwebs. What was interesting is that almost a year later, he sent me an email saying he's quit, he started his own business, and he's now running a 5 crore business.
Okay. Fantastic.
Yeah. So, mentoring is, when somebody wants to, for example, there is a HR head, there is a new HR assistant or a vice president who's been hired, and the HR head wants to coach, mentor this guy into that role. Coaching does not transfer any information. Mentoring transfers information. Okay. In a mentor-mentee relationship, the center of gravity is the mentor. The energy flows from the mentor. Whereas in a coaching relationship, the energy flows from the coaching participant. Okay, so if you don't have an aspiration, the coach has no role. Okay, in a mentor-mentee relationship, there is a hierarchical, power available. The mentor can force the mentee to say, "Look, you must do this." But if I'm coaching you and you don't want to do it, there is no obligation on either side. So only aspirations and interest will coach. So coaching is really about igniting, the power in you, so that you can, raise your orbit. You can escape the gravity that's holding you back and escape to higher orbit. It's simply about you want it done. You need help. Yeah, I'm here to help you. Okay, that's it. Okay, why you want to do it? I really don't care. For example, if you tell me that Hari, I want to become an athlete, yeah, and I want to participate in the next Olympics. Okay, it's not my job to ask you why you want to do that. Yeah, though if I know your purpose, that helps me to coach you better. But my job here is to help find out, the power inside you that can help you become that international athlete 4 years from now towards that. Okay, so it's not my job to judge you. It's my job to help you. That's why, I say, in all my posts, you will see it's about helping. That's why your second question was almost it, helping people become better at whatever they want to do.
Fantastic. It really now clears the thought. Beautiful. Now, when you spoke about this coaching and mentoring, now in the current situation, right? I'm slightly going a bit tangent, but I feel it is relevant, and I want to ask you this question. We have many leadership models, many leadership frameworks, and eminent coaches like you, right? But still, in the recent situation of pandemic, we have noticed many organizations, if not every organization, almost failed to maintain its, business as usual.
Yeah.
Do you see any gaps in people understanding the term leadership, or is there a gap in leadership? Now, as a CEO coach, what did you notice, and how would you approach? Now, you have your clients, you have been coaching people. So how would you approach in bridging such things and enabling such leaders, and ensure that in the later stages, in the future, if we come across similar situation again, the business would not stop, or at least come to a standstill?
Asking about, is there a gap in the understanding of leadership? Yeah, I would like to quote, Marshall Goldsmith, who's arguably the world's #1 coach. Marshall Goldsmith talks about coaching and leadership as he says, coaching is not about helping leaders understand the practice of leadership. Okay, just stay with me here. Okay, viewers also. Okay, it's not about helping leaders understand the practice of leadership. Rather, it's helping them practice the understanding of leadership. It is not about helping leaders understand the practice of leadership. Okay, but it is about helping them practice the understanding of leadership. Okay, which means it's not about helping them understand what the hell leadership is all about. It's about helping them practice whatever understanding of the leadership they have. Okay, so to go back to that question, see, yeah, there is a bit of both. One is people do not understand, the definition of leadership. So there is a gap in understanding of what leadership is all about. Second, there is a leadership gap. Okay, and actually it flows from the first one. When people don't understand what leadership is all about, they are not able to provide the right kind of leadership. Yeah. So what happens is a lot of times, leadership thinks, most organizations, a lot of leaders think, their job is just to acquire a higher number. So every business metrics is tied down to how much turnover, how much profitability. No one really stops to question what are the vulnerabilities of the organization. Is our organization geared for the future? Does our organization have a purpose? Does an organization have a vision? Okay, they don't do that. So what they do is they just keep doing the same thing over and over again. They keep whipping up, the same curd. So after you have removed the curd, if you keep whipping it up, you're not going to get more curd. Okay, you're only going to spend a lot of effort. Einstein said this beautifully. He said, you have Einstein's thing on behind. I know that sort of reminded me to. Einstein said, insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, but expecting different results each time. Okay, if you continue to do what you've always done, you will continue to get what you always got. You're not going to get anything different.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so if you're simply trying to get a higher turnover, higher profitability, the only thing you're going to do is to focus on products, customers. How can I get more customers? How can I get more products? How can I open more branches, more territories? That's it. You are not going to be focusing on, am I relevant? What is the customer of, let's say, 2030 want from me? So every CEO in sometime in 2010 or 2015, I don't even think they would have imagined that a pandemic will interrupt their business like anything. Yeah. So that is leadership. The leadership is the ability to create a vision, align the organization towards the vision, and then provide the energy for that organization to run and achieve that vision. In order to do that, the leader needs to let go of the present. If he has to go after the future, if he's trying to protect the present, he can never achieve the future, because it's like running on a treadmill. Okay, no matter how much you run, at the end of the day, you're still at the same place. You might increase your speed, you might get tired, but you're still at the same place. Okay, 1 hour later, you're sweating, you're panting, but you're at the same place. You must have run 5 kilometers in the treadmill, but you're at the same place. Yeah, that's the problem. A lot of leaders don't understand the difference between having a vision and having a vision statement. Okay, a vision statement is a very beautifully glamorous looking statement, possibly written by the CEO and two of his friends, over a Starbucks coffee or inside his cabin, and then and he wants to believe that the rest of the organization needs to follow it. Okay, it may be the CEO's definition of a vision. It's not the vision of the organization. So, a vision is not just a statement. It's much more than a statement. It has to be magnetic. It has to energize people into wanting to do whatever that vision is. People working in that organization say, wow, man, I like where this organization is going here. I would like to provide my energies so that when the organization gets there, I will automatically become bigger. So you're getting you're getting a collaborator there. Okay, think of it like this. Let's say you tie 4 horses to a chariot, and there is a charioteer. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if you allow the horses to run on its own, each horse will pull on its own direction.
Right.
Okay. The chariot will not move an inch. It might probably move 10 inches. Okay. But if you align all the horses and you provide a direction for the horse, okay, can you imagine the speed with which the chariot will run if all the 4 horses are pulling the chariot? Okay, versus each horse pulling in different direction. That is the difference between an organization having a vision and an organization just focusing on managing the present. So they keep moving, but it will be inches. That's exactly what happened to a lot of organizations who didn't provide the vision, who didn't provide the energy. They were reacting. They suddenly found themselves hit with a pandemic. They just don't have a plan because they don't have a vision.
Beautifully explained. In fact, this reminds me. I read a book of Simon Sinek, which which you had referred just a while ago. Start with the why. He actually beautifully explained the importance of vision and the purpose. And after that, today I've heard from you the importance of vision and the difference between just having it on wall and working with the spirit of it. The spirit of it.
Yeah, having it on a wall is just a vision statement. A vision has to be in here. It cannot be out there.
Absolutely.
Okay, if it's out there, it's not a vision. If you need a statement to tell you what to do, you're finished. If it's not in your heart, you're not going anywhere.
Beautiful, beautiful. Hari, what I would do is I have another question, but I don't think I'll go there because that question can be answered with one of the viewers' question. And
Okay.
there's a common friend of ours, Sudhir,
Mm.
Sudhir
Mm.
Nelakandan.
Yes.
He actually asked, his statement is, why can't we talk about the importance of grid in formulating people behavior? I think it's such a relevant question. So,
Okay, good. Yeah. See, I had the grid business in India. I'm CEO of Grid International in India. See, GRID is an organization that was started for the purpose of organization building. See, a lot of business frameworks or organization building frameworks actually started off as a theory. Whether it is situational leadership or seven habits, a lot of it started as a theory propounded by the respective authors, and then it was interesting enough, and then the theory slowly became a model and a framework.
mhm.
With grid, what is interesting is it was actually the leaders of Exxon. I'm talking about 1960s. Exxon, the leaders of Exxon, the CEO of Exxon, actually called Dr. Robert Blake. Robert Blake then was a professor of Austin University, Texas.
Mhm.
He called Dr. Robert Blake and said, look, my organization has got tremendous amount of potential. We have lots of resources, we have good talent, we have good money, but somehow I don't think we are doing what we think we are capable of doing. We are punching below our weight. Can you help us understand? So Dr. Robert Blake did close to a year, 2 years of study there. Okay, and the consequence of that study is the grid framework. So unlike most other frameworks, grid was born from an organization need, a business need. Okay, so the grid framework is not merely a training framework. A grid framework is an organization building framework that helps organization achieve significantly higher business outcomes. Now that's what you just heard from Partha. Over 10 years, they moved from $6 million to $150 million. What Partha did not tell you is that they moved from something like 150 people then to something like 800 people now. Okay, they moved from something like 4 stores to 60 plus stores now. Now here is an element of culture which happened during this entire pandemic. While everybody was letting go of people, laying off people, Ample did not lay off even a single guy. Okay, not even a single guy they laid off. Okay, they were very, very clear that we are not going to send people home, just because the organization is hit. Okay, and it calls for a tremendous amount of courage. When the business is on lockdown for 3 to 4 months, you're paying rent for the stores, and the stores are in all marquee malls. There is one in UB City in Bangalore, and etc. etc. So when there is tremendous amount of pressure on funds to decide that you're not going to lay off even a single person, okay, that power comes from culture. Okay, and that's what grid delivers. Grid delivers a change in the attitudes and mindset. See, no matter how much we suggest, change is not going to happen unless you want to change. Yeah, you want, see, no matter how much your wife tells you to get up and go for a walk or something, you're not going to go. But the day you decide you want to go for a walk, you're up and about. The fundamental requisite for change is a belief change. If I don't change my beliefs, I will not change my behavior. What grid provides is a change in the belief system. And that's why we work with a lot of organizations. Whenever an organization wants to become a different kind of an organization, you cannot simply change processes and policies, okay, or strategies and templates and methods and all that. You have to change beliefs, because who's going to take the organization there? It's the people. So if you don't change beliefs, you're not going to change their behaviors. So the moment that happens, and that's what grid does. What grid does is it helps organizations globally in creating a culture. You see LinkedIn, there are tons of posts on people saying sound culture, we need grid culture. It's everybody talks about the culture that they want, but nobody knows how to build that culture. Everybody acknowledges the power of culture, but how to build that? You cannot build culture by simply changing policies, processes, and sending a few emails. Okay, or taking people on workshops and spending hundreds of thousands of dollars on workshops and offsites, and none of that will happen. Culture changes when belief changes, and belief is not easy to change. I cannot send an email saying, Venkat, from tomorrow morning, you better start, listening more better. Okay, from tomorrow morning, you stop interrupting. I can't do that unless you decide that shit, man. This is not, this is not effective. I need to listen more, or I need to listen better. I need to stop interrupting. Unless you have that belief, you will not change. So, grid helps organizations and teams transform their culture towards achieving higher business outcomes, because grid was born from an organizational need. It was not a theory or a book which later on became a framework.
Fantastic. Thank you. I think it actually gives a absolute, clarity on the importance of grid and how it can actually help in transforming organizational culture and the organization itself. Uh, Personally, I don't want this session to actually end, but I would want more such sessions from you. So before we wind up, I would like you to actually give some closing comments about your experience about this entire session.
I think, one of the things that struck me, was the tremendous amount of homework that you have done, in trying to ask the right kind of, in trying to ask questions, which are usually, everybody's questions, and it's sort of, the fact that you ask these questions helped, to bring out some of the answers were quite detailed, but it helped. The discussion was nice. So I really appreciated the kind of research you've done in, picking the kind of questions. And I think, what also stuck me was that in a lot of the questions, we just kept sticking to that concept of leadership, and we get sticking to the concept of business and, stuff like that. So even though we were discussing coaching, we were not so far away from the concept of leadership at all. We were circling around the same element of leadership. I think over a period of time, I'm sure you'll be creating, a library, a repository of, fantastic thought processes from tremendous amount of thought leaders. I saw your conversation with Raja Krishnamurthy, with Sharan Gill. I think it's, I think you're creating a wonderful repository, a wonderful, library. I think, that's going to be very valuable. I personally found, this conversation quite useful because, these are questions that, I normally tend to ask myself and put it out, like, why do leaders not get coached? And, so you see some of my posts. But the fact that when you're asking those questions, it just allows me to elucidate with some examples. I would invite everybody to embrace the concept of coaching far more freely than they're doing now. Resolve your dilemmas. Just get better at whatever you're doing. That's all you need to be.
Thank you. Thanks a lot, Hari. And I don't know, it's how to actually, show my gratitude to you for this, because it's been such a tremendous session. Extremely important and critical pointers. You have cleared out a lot of queries and questions that normally which runs into our mind and which forms a kind of a shadow, and it's now very clear. It's very clear for me, and I'm very sure it's very clear for all the people, majority of the people who are viewing, and also for the people who would be watching once it is uploaded. Personally, I would like to thank you, and thanks a lot, viewers, for joining us this session. Have any questions, feel free to put it in the comment section, or you could also email it to me to contact vs@venkateshans.com. I would connect back with Hariprasad Menon and forward the answers to you. In case if you're in need of specific coaching and if you want to talk to Hariprasad Menon, and feel free to connect with me. I would connect you with Hariprasad Menon. Thank you, friends. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Hari.
I enjoyed this tremendously. I didn't realize the time go by. Thank you so much.